Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the Earth Station One podcast. My name is Mike Faber. I'm the host of the show, and we are remembering our dear friend Darren Nowell, who we lost last month. And this is going to be a dedication episode. It might go a little longer. It's not going to be the usual ESO format that we do on the podcast, but I want to introduce my crew for tonight. We got a great bunch of folks here, and hopefully this is going out onto Facebook. It's going out onto YouTube. Got an error message, of course, right before we started, recording as normal. This is par for the course with us. So let's say hi to everybody, and let's, of course, bring my co-host, Mr. Mike Gordon.
Howdy.
How are you, my friend?
I am fine. I'm glad it seems like it's been way too long, but yeah, Darren's still very much on my mind anyway, and I know a lot of other people's minds. So
and it definitely is, and I think this is only appropriate that we do this for our friend.
Oh, absolutely.
And
I mean, as he was scheduled to be on this episode anyway.
Yeah, he was. And so it's going to be interesting to see if this all works out. And, please feel free to comment if you're watching us tonight. If you're, let's share memories. This is a celebration of Darren. So much for celebrating. I brought my apple pie, so it's good.
Nice.
And, if you want to, please write us if you're watching this, at home, or you're listening to this on YouTube later. Feedback at earthstation1.com is the best way to get in touch with us. And we definitely would love to hear from you guys we want to hear about your memories of Darren and, the joy and everything that he brought to everybody. And let's welcome some friends of ours tonight to the show. Of course, Miss Mary Ogle's here.
Hi, everybody. I kind of hate that we have to be here in this way, but I'm glad we're all getting together to celebrate what was a life that had a lot of impact on a lot of us.
Oh, very much so. Very, very much so. And also, let's welcome Alan Siler.
Hello.
Thank you for joining us on this occasion.
Oh my gosh. Thank you so much for inviting me. I wouldn't have missed this for anything.
I don't disagree with that. And of course, Josh Wilson. It's been a long time since you haven't been on the show, sir.
It really has been a long time. It's good to see you all again. I wish it was under better circumstances, but we'll try to have a little bit of fun tonight. That's what Darren would have wanted, so that's what we're going to do.
I think Darren would appreciate that you went to the local elementary school to sit in the gymnasium for this.
I haven't done this in a long time, and I got my whole new setup here, and I'm not an expert at it. So yes, I went to the local school, and I'm filming in front of a nice blank wall. So
nice.
Maybe next time I'll do better.
I hope the lunchroom is serving pizza today.
Oh, always.
With the little sausages and everything.
And the milk pouch. I always got to get that milk pouch.
That's right.
That shows you how old I am.
Wow, that's old.
Yeah, not quite.
Oh, this is going to be tougher than I thought it was going to be to do this tonight. But you know what? It's what we're here to do. And, people are already commenting. Thank you, Tanya, for joining us.
Thank you, Tanya.
Thank you for celebrating Darren's wonderful life. And it was wonderful. And it was amazing. Darren's family had a service for him just about, a week and a half ago now. And it was amazing to see how many people he touched and how many people that he was part of their lives. And he had the minister there had a lot of folks come up to talk about their memories of Darren and everything. I was only expecting maybe like 3 or 4 people, but people just kept on coming up, and each person kept on telling a different story about him and a different side to his life.
Yeah, it was amazing how many different aspects of life that he was involved in. It wasn't just, the geek stuff like we're all used to, his community and, friends and his work. They were all out in droves. It was quite amazing to see.
And the fact that what really impressed me is that there were people there from his elementary school, from first grade, from fourth grade. Like and it doesn't surprise me, but it's just like so rewarding to hear that, he touched these people even at that age, and they still honor him and want to remember him. And that's just, that says something about a person right there.
I had never met any of his Georgia Tech coworkers, so I was really pleased to see the number of them that showed up as well.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, very much so.
They really
And
made
it
their
was like,
presence known.
and it was awesome when the minister asked everyone from his, his coworkers to stand up, everyone from Georgia Tech. There was probably almost 24 people
Mm-hmm.
who came out.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. It was like my jaw was like hitting the floor. And he had not just one supervisor, he had 2 different supervisors there from his work. And it was awesome. And it was nice to be able to meet Darren's mom, and his brother Ken was pretty amazing, and his family. And it was awesome. One of Ken's sons got up to talk about his Uncle Darren, and
that was so sweet. That was the cutest thing ever.
Mm-hmm. And so it was pretty awesome to be able to see. And Darren, all of us have different experiences with Darren. All 5 of us have known Darren from different points of his life. And, I met Darren through the podcast, originally through his original podcast, the Legion of Substitute Podcasters. And, I was a fan of that. And I found out that through Comic Geek Speak. And, they were promoting their show because they worked quite a bit together. And I was like, oh, Darren's in Atlanta. And it's like, oh, I should get him in touch with him. And being a newbie podcaster, I reached out to Darren, and we were running last minute. We needed an extra guest for Lost. And I remember hearing that he watched the show, and I asked him, hey, do you mind sitting in? He did not hesitate. And that's the wonderful thing with Darren, is no matter when we needed him, if he was free, he said, yeah, kosher, I'll be there, And I always had to ask him, what's the deal with you on kosher? You're not Jewish,
He likes pickles.
Yes, he does. It was actually funny because he was, when he was younger, he was friends with a family that was Jewish, and they kept Shabbos, and so they didn't flip the switches, they didn't light the stove or anything like that. And he was telling me stories about, he was basically the Shabbos goy for them. And so he would come over to turn on the lights when it got dark, or he would, if they had needed something cooked, he would do that for them and everything. So it was pretty amazing. And that's
so
just tells the
interesting,
person.
I've heard him, over the years, say kosher 1,000 times. It never occurred to me to ask him, what that's all about. But I'm glad that you did, and I'm glad you shared that story.
Mm-hmm. Well, we had actually had him over for the Jewish holiday, last year, for Rosh Hashanah, and he said, and I said, is this new food for you? And he says, no. And it's like, he says, Faber, how many times did I tell you I was the Shabbos goy? Come on. So it was always funny with that. So, and it was awesome. And that's the thing. He just went all the time with the flow. He just was so easygoing, and it was just always wonderful about that. And I just loved it about him.
Yeah, he was a very accepting person. I didn't know him as long as you guys did. I got to know him through the podcast, listening to him on the DragonCon report, and then doing the LGBT episodes with him and seeing him at DragonCon. But he was somebody you just immediately clicked with him, almost no matter who you were, because he was your friend right from the beginning. He did not have judgment. He just accepted you and talked to you. And I so appreciated that about him. I don't have a lot of people to talk about gay issues with. And so, that was a real treasured moments for me, being able to share that with him. And I'm going to miss that so much.
Oh, very much so. It is. It's interesting. Like Mike Gordon said earlier, Darren was supposed to be on this episode. This was scheduled to be our quarterly LGBT segment that we did, and we've been doing it for probably like 4 or 5 years now.
At least, yeah. I mean, officially. I mean, and
Yeah.
we had, you know, obviously we would have Darren on to talk about anything. Darren was always welcome to talk about whatever he wanted to talk about. Good luck stopping him, right?
No. Once Darren had his mind to a point, it was like boom, 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 boom.
And
couldn't stop him.
You know, but you know, whether it was geek topics or gay topics or serious topics, political topics, social topics, like, I mean, his knowledge base was impressive. I mean, he did the research, he backed it up, and when he talked, it wasn't just out of, you know, it wasn't just making stuff up out of air or whatever. I mean, he knew what he was talking about 9 times out of 10.
For all the movies that we did, he used to send us like at least a dozen links
He did.
you know, and it was like always like, oh, you might want to look up on this, you might want to watch this YouTube video before, you know, because he wanted us to come prepared to talk about these issues that came out of these movies and stuff. There were reasons why he was showing us these things. And you know, and so it was, and it was for a little bit, it felt like we kept on getting heavier and heavier, but it was topics that we needed to talk about and get out there and everything. And then he said, okay, Faber, I'm going to take it easy on you. We're going to watch the Birdcage next time. So it's like, okay. So that was always nice. So it was pretty amazing.
I mean, that was one of the special things about Darren, though, that, I mean, he could very easily talk about very difficult topics and very seriously and in a very heartfelt way, but he wasn't somebody who had lost his joy in life and in the people around him and in the kind of person he was. And I think that's one of the reasons why so many people loved him and were drawn in by him, because he just was somebody who, I mean, he, no matter what society tried to tell him, he wasn't afraid to love in many different ways, you know, from friendship to you know, being gay, just being a person in the world and accepting what other people were.
Yeah, he was very accepting, except he did not suffer bullies. He did not suffer
No, he did not.
ignorance. He did not suffer tyrants. He did not suffer, like, I mean, he made it, he was not afraid to draw the line in the sand.
He also didn't suffer people not living truly, you know, not being true to themselves or not being true to what they present outward, you know. And on the way home from the service last weekend, it was like 4:30 or 4:45 or something like that, and I hadn't eaten all day, and I thought I had dropped Josh off and I dropped my housemate off, and I thought, you know what, I'm hungry. The only thing close to us is Popeyes, so I went and got Popeyes, and on my drive back to my house, I realized that I actually have a fried chicken story about Darren. Now,
really?
It's not something that I can actually tell because it was kind of a personal situation for him, but it involved somebody who basically was lying about something outwardly, and that was it. And he valued that honesty. He valued being able to live a true life, and didn't have patience for people who chose not to do that.
Yeah, well said.
That is true.
Yeah. He was really great about being kind and kind of letting you. I guess I'll go back to when I first met him, because I met him, I was right out of high school, and we ended up working together at the mall. And he was really the first out person that I'd ever really met and got to know, because I was this, you know, white Southern Baptist sheltered kid, didn't really know anything, And I mean, you can imagine, meeting Darren as my first openly out and proud person.
Hey, it could have been a lot worse.
Hey, no, absolutely. But that's kind of my point, is because he was not afraid to, tell me how it was and educate me. And I learned so much from him. And I've got all sorts of people from all walks of life that I'm friendly and love. And he was one of the first. And it was really like learning from him allowed me to like open up my mind space. And I really will always appreciate that for Darren.
Friend of the show, Bobby Nash, actually left a message.
Oh, Bobby.
Darren, in chat, and says, Darren was a great guy. I remember the first time I met him during one of our live ESO recordings when we were at Titan Comics. When we walked in the door, he said, "Oh, look, the straight people are here."
That's him.
Then he introduced himself and a friendship was born. We had a great conversation about comics and more. It would be really odd not seeing him at Dragon Con this year. Because he's a fixture at Dragon Con. He is.
He is, because we have been recording the Dragon Con report for over 11 years officially, and he's always been a part of it from day one. I mean, he's, even though I was going to Dragon Con 15, 20 years before that, before I even met him, I associate him so closely with Dragon Con now. It is going to be it's weird recording the Dragon Con report without him. I still haven't gotten used to that. Yeah. The fact that, we only found out about his passing mere minutes before we were supposed to go live was just a weird thing in of itself. But the fact that he's, his spirit's always going to be there. That's for sure. And I'm always going to now think that we need to do a show to honor him. But it's going to be weird, the fact that he's not there. I don't know. I don't even know. I'll probably never get used to that.
No, and I don't think it will, because literally the look on your face when you found out.
I couldn't even say it out loud.
No, you were like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. And I was like, what? Trying to.
You guys were like, what? And I was like, I can't believe it. And I don't, if I say it out loud, it might be true.
Mm-hmm. Well, exactly. And I'm glad his brother Ken actually posted something on his page. Or
absolutely.
Ken has been, I don't know if he's listening to this, watching this, and if you are, so, I'm sure he's in tears, but Ken has been amazing throughout this whole thing. I can only imagine, as close as we were with him, what Ken and his mother and his family's going through is just, for it to happen so suddenly, is just hard. And, but he's been amazing. Every time I talk to him, he's been accepting and classy and, just a great guy.
Very much so.
I'm sorry that it took this for me to get to know Ken, actually.
Well, exactly. And it's tough. It really, really is tough. And I wish it could have been easier for all of us. I want Darren here. He would be touched. He'd be like laughing his butt off that we're doing this for him. But he would be, he would be tickled pink, literally, about this. And I think it's just awesome. And that we're doing this for him. I'm going to throw up a couple pictures that I actually, did, with him, always with the podcast.
Mm-hmm. That was our group.
That was our original group.
That's the Dragon Con report. him and Mary had such a connection. That was fun. Every episode to record, just to watch the two of them go at it. And this is a rare video, because this was before Zoom. We would just hear each other on Skype or whatever. And so, for years I had Darren's voice just, in my brain every time we recorded. And I'm going to miss that voice in there.
Mm-hmm. And, Darren is Wonder Warrior. It was just, he was just an amazing, he had no shame. He cosplayed no matter what, what it was and everything. I've seen him in full, like Roman armor And I've seen him, dress as a Legionnaire. I've seen him dress as, Wonder Warrior was the one the most. And I know he was thrilled, like when this picture was taken, when he got to meet George in person and such.
Oh yeah.
So it was pretty awesome. And then you took this one, Mike.
Yeah,
came to your table.
he was doing. Yeah, he was wearing his
The Riddler?
Joker outfit. Oh, Riddler.
Riddler.
Sorry, Riddler
Riddler.
outfit. Yeah.
Yeah.
But he
So-
still had that Wonder Woman button on. He still has,
Oh, yeah.
he still has that Wonder badge on. Like, he can't get rid of that completely. But
That is such a good picture of him.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's a great picture.
It's
Mhm.
very sharp.
And our friend DJ Spider, and she was dressed as Phantom Girl from the Legion of Superheroes, and Darren was dressed as Bouncing Boy back in 2019. It was pretty awesome. And just Darren he had so many friends and so many different
Yeah.
situations and such, and it was just always awesome to be able to see him and him being happy, and he always was most of the time. So
Yeah. The people throw out the term life of the party about a lot of people, but Darren is like the epitome of that. Like, you could not be at a party and not have Darren be the center of attention.
no, definitely. And he was always making sure also everyone was having a good time and everything. We went to one of his holiday parties that he had at his condo.
Absolutely. Pee-wee's Christmas special every year.
Exactly. Every year.
Oh my God, yes.
Yes, it was like, it was so surreal watching it with everybody, and it was just like, and he was able to quote it line per line.
Oh yeah, he watched
Absolutely.
it a million times.
Right. And so there's him with Neon.
Yeah. Who credits him? The Spectrum Party is one that happens every year at Dragon Con. Now it's a tradition now, and I know that Neon credits Darren as being a large part of why that even came to be. So
And there's Sabrina and Darren. It's just awesome. And that's Darren's family.
Yeah.
That's his brother Ken and one of the kids when they were little, his sister-in-law, his nephew, his mom. And it was wonderful to meet them all. So it was pretty cool. And this is during one of our panels. And it was just always fun to be able to
share the stage.
Share the stage with him, because this is actually when we did the Little Shop of Horrors sing-along for the American Classic Sci-Fi track.
Oh wow.
At Dragon Con. And it was the most amazing thing, having the whole room singing, Little Shop of Horrors or Downtown, or and just the songs from it. And like, even Gary was like, we've got to do this every year, Faber. And it was just awesome.
Not
And
only
Darren,
every year, he's starting a track for theater.
Yeah, well, exactly. And it was funny as hell, because Darren just kept on saying, thank you. So it was pretty awesome. This is the charity that Darren was quite fond of, the Lost and Found Youth. It's basically finding safety and shelter for LGBTQ youth, and especially in Atlanta. And definitely we'll have the link to it up on our show notes. And I could probably tell you guys this now. We're going to be creating a Wonder Warrior t-shirt for our T Public store, and all the proceeds for that is going to be going to the Lost and Found Youth, anything we make out of it. So it's going to be pretty awesome for it. So
yeah, I'm gonna Mike, I didn't know but I'll piggyback off that too, is that currently I am working on a book of an anthology called Dragon Tales, where people are submitting their memories of Dragon Con. It's something I've been working on for a while.
Oh, that's cool.
And originally I was going to put it in honor of Tom Trainer, who used to run the comics track. over at Dragon Con, and he was a very dear friend and a guy who loved Dragon Con. And unfortunately, we lost him in a sudden fashion due to a heart attack. And so 1 year, Dragon Con made their official charity, the American Heart Association. So I was going to do this book, but it never happened for whatever reason. But with Darren's absence now, I'm doubling down on the book, and we're going to produce the book, and I'm going to be calling for submissions very soon. And it's benefiting now 2 charities. It'll be going to American Heart Association and also Lost and Found in honor
Awesome.
of both those gentlemen.
That's so great.
So
Yeah, that's great.
So anybody out there who wants to honor Darren, honor Tom, honor Dragon Con, reach out to me, and I'll give you more details on how you can participate.
Count me in.
Awesome. Thank you.
That's awesome. We got a couple emails. We had put a call out for folks writing in or sending videos and stuff. One of Darren's friends, Adam, wrote this, and I had met Adam actually at the funeral, and this is what he wrote. He says, "Hi, Mike. Wanted to share my memories of Darren for the Facebook Live. I met Darren through the Comic Geek Speak forums. I was just out of college and I had just moved to Atlanta, where I absolutely knew no one. We started messaging back and forth on the forums, and we decided to meet up, which now I think about it was a bad idea. Don't meet strangers from the internet in person, kids." Anyway, we met up at Oxford Comics in Atlanta and got it off right. We hit it off right away. We started hanging out regularly, and he convinced me to drive him to MegaCon. He made me listen to the show tunes the whole entire way. We ended up staying with Brian and Pants from Comic Geek Speak, where we learned that Pants had never eaten soup before, and Darren threatened to report him to the Soup Council. We stayed friends for years, even after I left the city, going to 2 super shows together and meeting up at Dragon Con every year. We hadn't met up in person since before the pandemic, which I had just thought I should fix when I found out he had passed. I was devastated and dug out the Legion ring he talked me into buying so I could wear it for a few days in his honor. I'll never forget him, my friend and fellow geek. Long live the Legion. Adam Thibault. Thank you, Adam. That was awesome.
That's great.
That was great. You know, what really gets me, Darren, that's such and such. You know, I always thought that I was special because he was always getting me to drive him to cons. Like I drove him to Heroes Con several times, but evidently he was getting everybody to drive him to all the cons. I swear.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Well, I remember he used to also do the Megabus stuff all the time going up to Heroes. And he used to tell me the tales of things he used to see on the bus. I can't say it on the podcast. That's sorry, folks.
So we used to be involved in a group called Outworlders, which is local Atlanta LGBT, whatever letters, sci-fi fans, and we did a lot of stuff with them. And he every year would do a road trip down to Disney for Gay Days. And he would always take a group of us down, and it was whoever was available at anytime he went. And I don't know. It was something that he always included anybody else who wanted to go on, and I just thought that was always really neat.
Yeah, that was another passion of his, was Disney.
Yes,
he loved Disney products. He loved Disney World. He loved talking about Disney, and he wasn't one of the blind, faithful masses of Disney. Like, he was well aware that
he criticized them.
that there were things, wrong in the House of the Mouse, but he still loved them, and apparently from a very early age. So I mean, that's something that I think, he just, we could share that too, because I love Disney as well.
He loved his Disney.
Tanya Woods just wrote, Darren managed to talk many people into stuff they would never do. He made me take the Megabus. But Tanya, did you enjoy it? That's the question. So that's always the thing.
You were talking earlier about him being such a fixture at Dragon Con, and I want to say that he was of a number of cons. It wasn't
Mhm.
just Dragon. He was
That's true.
involved in a lot of the other smaller conventions too, and in particular, uh, one of the things that's associated with Outworlders is an annual con called Outlanticon,
Mhm.
and and so I used to be involved in Outlanticon as a staff person, and I was like the programming director. And so at some point, we got into the thing of doing game shows. And we did just a number of different ones. But really early on, we settled on Match Game as being kind of like, if you remember Match Game from the 70s, it was always kind of like dirty in an innuendo kind of way. It was
Mhm.
always double entendres and everything. And I don't remember if it was the first year or not, but Darren ended up being the host of that and did for every year. And he was basically our Gene Rayburn. And the funniest things. I mean, it was great anyway because Match Game gets a little randy, but at this kind of convention, there's no like barrier. It can go as randy as the players want it to go. And God, he was the funniest host. Holy smokes. It was a joy to watch. He had so much fun doing it, and man, he was good at it.
He was a quick wit.
Yeah.
And there were two things whenever we had him on the show, on our podcast, there were two things that I knew. One is that he was going to provide very witty, intelligent things to say, and two, that we were going to have to slap a mature audiences only
Yeah.
logo on that show,
Without
because
a doubt.
I think
Yep.
the very first time we had to do that was the one that we had Darren on. And then and all subsequent ones after that, just because and we could not ask him to put a filter on it because it would have just not been Darren,
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
That's
No,
very
and
true.
that's the thing with him. It was always like, it's like after his first appearance, it's like, yeah, I'm not going to edit this. Nope.
just put the label on it and let it go.
Let it go.
Right.
Let the listener be warned.
And there's been one or two times he says, was that too much? I said, no.
Like he would stop.
Yeah,
Right.
well, exactly.
Yeah, that was just a part of his personality, and I love that about him. I mean, I know there are lots of like on some of the LGBT episodes where Darren and I are just going, "Hey, do you know about?" Yeah, I know. Wait, do you know about this? Yes, I know, and nobody else has any idea what we're talking about. But it was fantastic to have somebody who was speaking the same language, because he knew everything. He knew everything that was going on in the gay world, I think. He just, no matter what movie we were talking about, he could do a deep dive. He knew that some current event that was attached to it, that was, whatever, all the actors' backgrounds and all of that. And, he could bring it up out of his memory like that. He never had any problem talking about whatever subject we were trying to talk about.
And as serious as some of the subjects were, and we did a couple of episodes that were really serious, talking about topics that seemed like, things were regressing, that things were really bleak. He was very much a realist. He was even, dare I say, at times cynical, but he was never bitter.
No, not at all.
Mm-mm.
No, he was never bitter about anything. It was really cute, though. The very first time we did a live recording, I had to pick him up because I had to drive him out to Duluth to go take him to the recording, and we had William with us, and William at the time was like 8 or 9, and when when Darren got in the car, he's like, "Oh, hey, hey, Mike," because we'd never met face to face. And then he saw that William was in the back. He says, "Oh, hi, I'm eccentric Uncle Darren. How are you?" So it was super cute. It was just he was great with everybody. I never saw anyone that he wasn't anybody, like when the times at Dragon Con, when we were always searching for a room to do a ESO recording or something. And, if security came, Darren was like, trying to charm their pants off or something like that, literally. But,
well, I was going to say, you say that about anybody, and it could be a figurative thing. For him, he probably was.
Yeah. Because Darren would be like, he's hot,
Yeah.
It was like, and so, but it was always like fun, doing that. Or one of the, it was weird when I got up there and talked, I was just talking at the funeral about memories of Darren, and one of the times I brought this up, and I was like, I can't believe I brought this up at a funeral. But one of the times we had found an area that we were thinking about recording in, the area that's now right outside the puppetry track and the Star Wars track up in the Marriott. It's this huge open area, and we thought, okay, we can just sit around and talk. And then all of a sudden, one of the doors burst open. This was like 11 o'clock at night on a Sunday night at Dragon Con. And this girl was turning green, and she ran to the garbage can and just tossed her cookies right in there. Darren just looked up at me and smiled and said, nope, not here. And then he turned to Gordon and everybody else. We gotta find someone else to play. No. So it was awesome. We got another note over on Facebook, and they wrote, it's like, you mentioned a quick wit and a mature label. As a listener, I think I've half eternalized his voice as such as part of the show. I literally heard in my mind's ear his saucy response to, like, get him off, misreading a few minutes ago. As a listener, I like how he had the ability to say things that anyone else could maybe make off color, but for Darren, it was just a joyful, humorous, and infectious in the silliness of it. It's true.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And that is awesome. Thank you. This is cool. Our friend Kevin Eldridge also wrote an email to us. He wrote, sorry, this is last minute, just saw our post. If you can use this for tonight's show, here you go. Kevin wrote, I first knew Darren as a voice on the Dragon Con report from ESO's Dragon Con tour video that Mike and him made. I was always impressed by Darren. He was so funny, so fast, so sarcastic, and opinionated and awesome. The first time we met in person, he poured me my first cup of his infamous apple pie, and we were friends from that point on. It was a pleasure to join him on podcasts and panels, but the conversations we had after the mics were off were even better. We bonded over comic books, George Perez, the Legion of Superheroes, nerd stuff like that. But Darren knew what really mattered, and I always remember his kindness. Long live the Legion, and we'll miss you, Wonder Warrior. That was wonderful.
Oh, that's sweet.
That was really good.
After he passed, I was struck by all the people who posted about how they knew Darren because they listened to our Station One, they listened to the LGBT shows, they listened to the Dragon Con report, and I thought, wow, I can't, I'm so proud to be part of this show and the other shows to help people, like to help bring Darren to people and to give Darren a platform to talk and get himself out there. And that's something that I never even realized it. I just thought, it's cool. We're hanging out with Darren. Like sometimes when you're podcasting, you don't realize that there's really other people like listening,
right.
Or watching, right? You just are.
In our case, there usually is not. So it's okay.
That's true. Fair point. But to find that there are all these people that are touched because of the shows that we produced is very touching to me, and it's something that I'm very honored to have participated in. And and the fact that, for those people who either have never heard him or want to hear him again, those shows are always available. You can listen to Darren anytime you want.
If you go to earthstation1.com or the ESO Network, especially ESO Network, you can go all the way back to episode 6.
I think all the Dragon Con reports are there too.
Yep. You can definitely listen to all of them. And it's awesome to be able to hear, hours and hours and hours of him discussing things he loved, which is really awesome. And, and let's not leave out his other podcast, the Legion of Substitute Podcasters.
No, not at all.
Because he's been doing that show probably, I think, since 2008 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's pretty amazing.
Yeah, I feel like Darren's is a voice that's going to just live on for a very long time. And not just because of recordings of his own voice, but because I bet that there are lots of people out there that maybe we don't know about, but who heard him and who thought, I can be more myself. If this man can be so unapologetically himself, cannot be afraid to speak his truth, well, then I can too.
There you go.
No, I think that's true. And that's wonderful that people were able to do that. And it was just amazing, just from when I posted that sadly Darren passed away up on Facebook, how many people shared it and how many people reacted to it. It was just, I was touched by it. Just how many people he had touched and everything. So,
I mean, I can't even begin to tell you. And the thing that I regret the most is I don't think that he knew how much impact he had on my life. Because I already talked about how when I first met him, but when I first met him, we ended up working at the same bookstore. And the reason that I became friends with him, I was like, didn't I see you on a panel at Dragon Con? Because he's been doing Dragon Con forever. So this was back in like 1998 when I first met him. And this is how long he's been a staple at Dragon Con. And so I got to be friends with him. And I'm a certified Anglophile now. But he introduced me to so much. Like, he was the first one to introduce me to like all the Britcoms, Are You Being Served, and Keeping Up Appearances, all that kind of stuff. Like, I'd go to his house and he would just like, well, you got to watch this. And so like he led me into being this huge Anglophile that I am now and got me into doing all these conventions and things. And then later on, when I first learned about podcasts, and I was like, one of my favorite things was the Legion of Superheroes. Like, I'm going to find the Legion of Superheroes podcast. And sure enough, I found his, like, what? And I heard the voice, like, wait a second, are you kidding me? Is that Darren on this podcast? What is even happening?
Oh, God.
And so I quickly contacted him, like, you're doing a podcast? What's going on? And it was through talking to him about him doing his show, it got me interested in doing podcasts. So that's when I started my own podcast, how I met all of you guys. And so the influence he's had on my life to make me who I am today is just insurmountable. And again, I kind of hate that I don't think he knew that.
You just reminded me of a thing. This goes back to Outworlders again. We used to do these monthly events, like these monthly house gatherings, and wherever I was living at the time usually ended up being like hosting a number of these things. And I used to do a monthly Doctor Who night, and it got lots of people that came. And Darren, I mean, it was kind of like an MST3K kind of situation where we would show stories, and out of love, not out of ridicule, out of love, we would, kind of make funny comments or whatever. And Darren was just hilarious. But that made me remember a different thing you just said. And we used to, for a little while, we did a Britcom night. And Darren was one of the key figures in that. And, hello, whoever you are, Facebook user. And I got exposed to a lot of, I mean, I knew some Britcoms already, but I got exposed to ones that I hadn't seen before. And man, I enjoyed those so much. So yeah, I'd kind of forgotten about him and his Britcoms.
Yeah. Again, I knew Doctor Who. That's how I met him, because I love Doctor Who. But he opened up this whole new world of what the BBC was doing, and I always will appreciate that. We Outworlders, we used to, one of our big things, and this was kind of our central event every month for years, and that was every week we would get together at a local bar. It used to be called Miss Q's, for any new episode of Buffy. We did it the first thing I ever went to for Outworlders was the season premiere of season 5.
And for every week until the end of season 7, we met at Miss Q's and watched the new episode. And oh my God, one of the best times of my life. And Darren was a huge part of that. And I will never eat fried chicken. I'll also never watch Buffy without thinking about Darren. And he was such a figure in our group. He was one of the ringleaders.
That's awesome. That is, it's amazing how many memories and thoughts, you have, the different events, and it was just awesome. And I loved hearing at the service all the different, like we had said earlier, someone first got up there. I knew Darren since 7th grade. And then the next person got, well, I knew him since 5th grade. And then
Right.
the last one got on, well, I got you all beat. I've known him since 1st grade. And he used to call me Blondie,
Yep.
Ken told me afterwards, he's like, it took everything I could not to get up there and go, I have you all beat.
Yeah, true. True. Josh said that he met Darren in 98. I had just moved to Atlanta in 98. I met Darren in 2000.
Okay.
So 23, 20, and luckily 2000, because that makes the math easy. So 23 years ago. And Jesus, I mean, he was a huge part of my life for that whole first, when I was getting to know Atlanta, and he was one of my first best friends in Atlanta. And we would hang out at the bars all the time. When we weren't at an Outworlders thing, we were just hanging out at bars. And oh my God, we had I got stories that I will not tell here, but we had so much fun.
We'll have apple pie and we'll tell Darren
There
stories.
you go. There you go.
Darren had a lot of those stories. Yeah. As
yes.
raunchy he was and as honest and forthright he was on the podcast, there's stuff that he could have easily talked about that never made a recording.
That is true.
He was always aware of that. And I know that it's weird because he was such a party guy. I never really got to experience that except for a handful of times. But I will say the one time where we had a sort of an ESO recording at Dragon Con, I say recording maybe like this, like it was more of an excuse to get together and drink pie. Darren, who made the most lethal pie I've ever had in my entire life. I mean, it had everything in it. But he spent most of the night caring for a guy who did not handle his liquor well and was not doing very well. And Darren really took care of that guy. He made it his mission to he was no longer the life of the party. He was just there for that guy.
I've seen him do that.
Oh my God, that's amazing.
Yeah, I have too.
Yeah, at a house party one time, I saw him do the exact thing.
Yeah, and it was awesome. And he even made sure this guy got back to his room.
Yeah,
and everything. And it was and that was pretty amazing. And the guy was literally turning green right in front of us. And Darren made sure he had water. He made sure, if he had to walk out into the hall to be able to get some air, type thing. Because there was a ton of us packed in it was actually Mike Gordon's hotel room. And it was, in those rooms, the Westin is a nice hotel, but those are not huge rooms.
Well, this was the one at the Hyatt. This is why they won't let me stay at the Hyatt anymore.
Oh, that's right. Because he did toss his cookies over the side. Okay, never mind. but yeah, it was. But Darren, seriously, he said, I'm gonna, he didn't even, without a beat, he was helping this guy, not even because he saw what was going on, and that's the kind of person he was, and everything. And as soon as he got back, boom, he was back on again, talking about, what he saw at the con and what he did this and everything. And, he knew what to do with, and when to do it. But he was a good spirit, and that's what was wonderful about him.
Yep.
And so it's pretty cool. All right. Got another thing, another message. This one actually is from our friend Michael Faulkner. He actually wrote on his creative criticality. He actually did a post about Darren, and he asked me if I minded if he could read this. You could check it out at creativecriticality.net. He said, basically, February was a rough month for me. My family had some health scares, and my friends were rocked by the deaths in their families. Among them was the sudden loss of Darren Nowell on February 21st. Darren was well known in the Dragon Con, local geek, and local podcasting circles. He worked with the ESO Network for a long time, including as a co-host on the Dragon Con Report podcast, which is where I had met him. His memorial was held last Sunday with a building full of friends and family to honor his legacy. The ongoing theme, as everybody swapped stories about Darren, was that he gave of himself unconditionally. If you needed help, he was there for you. He lived his life without disguises, showing the world his true, compassionate, and authentic self at every turn. More importantly, he encouraged those around him to do the same, to be proud of the skin in which they lived. I didn't know Darren long, but he was certainly one of the brightest burning stars of charisma and compassion that I had ever had the privilege of being around. He was an amazing example of what humanity can be. His physical presence will certainly be missed. His legacy will be with us for a very long time. Thank you, Darren. That was awesome. That was awesome, man. Good job, Michael. So, and he posted something underneath that post that Darren had posted April 10th in 2013. He wrote, "Sometimes I get asked, what do you get out of reading comics? Well, when I started reading comics, I was 10 or 11. And here's what I learned as a young lad. Superman taught me to do always the right thing, no matter how hard it might be." Hold on. Okay. Wonder Woman taught me the importance of the truth and never compromising your integrity. Batman taught me about logic, strength, and justice. Aquaman taught me to respect the environment we live in. Green Lantern taught me to respect other races. Flash taught me to slow down and enjoy life. Martian Manhunter taught me how to survive. Green Arrow taught me to defend those who are on the fringe. Adam taught me never to underestimate someone because of its size. Oh, God, that's coming from Darren. Hawkman taught me to soar to new heights. Black Canary taught me that every foe can be defeated. Elongated Man taught me that the best solution to a problem is to apply humor. Red Tornado taught me not to take my humanity for granted. And Santana taught me to look for magic in every day. Firestorm taught me that even if I screw up once in a while, I can still be a hero. That's awesome.
Wow. That's amazing.
That's a DC fanboy right there.
That's right.
Big time.
Satellite era, baby.
Exactly.
Wow,
Oh, man.
When I used to work for AtlantaCon, Darren, and I was planning the programming, Darren was always my go-to comics guy.
Oh, yeah.
And we would do 2 or 3 comics panels every year, and he was always the first guy I would ask, and we would always plan some stuff together. And part of that was because, I know like my classic 70s, 80s, and really into the early 90s Marvel, but I didn't know anything about DC, so he was my DC guy. But the other thing is he knew everything. He knew DC, he knew Marvel, he knew some of the indies. His knowledge base just blew me away. And so we did a lot of those things over the first 5 or 6 years of AtlantaCon, if not more.
Yeah, I think Mike, didn't we do a panel with him at AtlantaCon one year?
We did 3 of them, actually, 3 years.
Wow.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
We did. We were still younger. Well, yeah. Let me rephrase that. You're young podcasters. Yeah, that's
right.
Darren, said, "Hey, do you want to do any, comic panels and stuff, or podcasting stuff, or science fiction stuff at this con that I do?" And it's like, "Yeah, of course." And they were always fun to do. We didn't have a huge turnout, but it was still fun to do and everything. And it was, Darren usually was like, I'm hungover, so don't talk loud. So
Yeah, I seem to recall most of them were at like early Sunday morning, which was
exactly.
That's a rough spot.
It was. I miss the guy. I really do.
Darren, people may not know this. Darren was a cat person. He throughout the time I've known him, he had cats. In fact,
cheers, Kevin.
He and so we had that in common. In fact, really in common, because when his mother moved and couldn't have cats at her new place of residence, he was looking for someone to take them in, and we ended up taking the 2 cats in, one of which was the mother of the cats plural that he had. Like I think 2 of her sons Darren had. And one of those sons, Boots, is now staying with us. So we took him in after talking to Ken, and it looked like they had dogs, and there wasn't any place that they, And then we had done such a good job taking care of his mother's cats that actually his mother was insistent that we take Boots. So we have made room in our house for Boots. He has been here a few days. He is about 13 or 14 years old, which is a little bit, and he weighs about 14, 15 pounds. He is a heavy guy. But so far it hasn't been that much of a turbulent introduction. He kind of just hangs out. He's obviously confused, but the other cats have given him a wide berth. There hasn't been any fights so far, and I think he's old enough where he's just kind of like, yeah, I'm too old to fight. I just whatever's happening, I'm just gonna try to work myself around. So yeah, as long as he wants to be here, we will. He has a home here. So
very nice.
That's nice. Yeah.
And it is nice to have a little piece of Darren here. It's like it. That's kind of fun too.
Yeah.
Well, I think Darren will be living for quite a long time in our heads and our memories and stuff. And it's awesome. We have all these podcasts to remember him by. We have tons of memories of events and places and things to remember him by, which is pretty awesome. He'll kill me because I'm going to tell you this one story. When Darren was moving out of his condo in Atlanta.
Which time was that?
Well,
thank you.
Well, his studio that he had on Peachtree Street, the one down by the Fox. He was asking people, "Hey, does anyone know of any house cleaners? Because I'm going to be putting this place up on the market." And so he was wondering, And so Judy and I had a cleaning crew that we use. And so we recommended them. So Darren called me the day they showed up, and he says, "I hate you, Faber." I said, "Why?" And it's like, "You didn't tell me these guys would be so hot."
That's hilarious. Oh man.
It's like Bee's Playhouse all over.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. The construction workers.
The construction workers.
Exactly. It was awesome. Yeah. Whereas Tanya is calling that place, she's calling it the Peachtree Party Pad. So it was awesome. That was the place I visited. So it was pretty awesome. Darren was always very welcoming no matter what. And, and he was like, if he had people over or he had things and we wanted him to do a podcast or something or be on location with us, he would say, "Oh, I have people at my place. I'll just drag them along. They'll drive me." So,
yeah,
which was always
he was a great friend. And then he would act like nothing had ever happened or no time had passed at all. I had moved and I got married, so we went a couple of years without really talking, and then we reconnected, and it was like no time had passed at all. He was like, yeah, just absolutely acting like nothing had ever changed. I love that about him.
Yeah. I hadn't seen him for a few years as well, and ran into him at Oxford Comics, of course, as I was coming in and he was going out, and it was exactly the same thing. It was like we picked up immediately where we left off. So I always appreciated that as well.
It's always like with him, if he knew you were going to be in the area or something, because one of the times my wife was in the hospital, even she was at Emory and for a couple days, and he had to take his mom in for testing or something. And while his mom was in testing, he knew that Judy was in the same building. He came up and hung out with Judy at the hospital room and everything, just to help cheer her up.
Yeah,
and
that's awesome. He's a great guy.
He was. And I expect him to any minute now, message Faber, why am I not on this podcast with you?
He's just so full of life. You can't imagine him not being around. You might as well say like, oh, the sun's not shining any longer, because that's how like he was, It's just like I expect the sun to disappear before
it was a message from Darren.
Yeah, I think that was very interesting. That happened right when you were talking about Darren being on the podcast.
Yeah.
He's throwing things at you?
He's throwing things at
Throwing
Darren.
things.
Oh, that's awesome. So I think, this is a good point. Let's all, I think this is where we'll call it a night for this.
I want to say real quickly that I mentioned Outlandicon earlier and how he was involved in it for so long. Outlandicon is this weekend. So I'm pretty sure that I'm going to be doing this same thing again there, because I'm sure that they are planning some kind of like gathering, some kind of, their own sort of memorial. And, as one of the events at the convention. And I mentioned to one of them, I said, you know what, we should now make it the Darren Nowell Memorial match game.
Oh God, yes. That would be awesome.
Because I don't know who is going to take that over now. Nobody can do it like he did.
Right.
No. Well, somebody had to take over for Bob Barker on The Price is Right. So
I guess you have a point.
Yeah. Poor Drew Carey.
I'll just get Drew Carey on the horn and have him come
Exactly.
out
There you go.
do our little game show.
Exactly. I'm sure he'll be glad to do it.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, folks. Thank you for everyone for joining us for this. It has been awesome. And, any final thoughts before we cut out?
Just I'm gonna miss him. I'm gonna miss his constant teasing me about my love for Ultra Boy, but always apologizing after he would make jokes about him on the podcast. And it's just like that was just so Darren. Absolutely wanted to eviscerate me, but then check with me later to make sure I was okay. That's just Darren in a nutshell right there. Able to just absolutely make fun of you as much as possible, but then want to make sure you're okay and apologize later on. I'll miss him.
And just like Alan said with the game show, I mean, podcasting the Dragon Con report as well as the LGBT shows that we do on Earth Station 1, not going to be easy. Not going to be easy without him. But to not do them is unthinkable, because Darren would not want us to not continue doing those things.
He would come back and haunt us.
Exactly. And so we're definitely going to do our best to honor him with the best shows that we can with those. So,
well, he might come back and haunt you anyway.
Well, that's true. That's
just
true.
Look for that.
I mean, Mary, now I'm scared, because now, like,
I'm telling you, that was him.
Because now
he wanted everyone to know he was here.
Yeah. Wow. Now I have a different concern, but
well, especially because that painting was bolted to the wall. So
I mean, I've said it before, and I guess I'll just end with this: is that having him on our shows made our shows better. And
very much so.
And knowing him as a person made me better. So
wow,
that's a good way to put it.
I'm gonna miss him.
Most
so
definitely.
much.
Definitely. And, thank you everybody for being here, listening to our stories. And he's not going to go away. We are going to remember him, where he's going to be part of our shows. And, we'll be talking about him again, probably on the Dragon Con report when we do our next one. And we'll be, he'll be part of everything. The LGBT segment is going to continue, and it's going to be, awesome. Before we get out of here, we had just one more thing that people wrote. I only got to meet Darren at the ESO Dragon Con meetups, so I really only knew him from listening to him. I know it would hurt a lot worse if I knew him, but all that I knew of him and all I've heard of him, it makes me jealous of all of you that you had him in your lives and I didn't. He was a rare person that would make anyone's life better through his presence.
He
Absolutely.
definitely did.
Yes,
Definitely did.
Yes,
and if you heard him on our shows, you knew him. I mean, he left.
Yeah.
He was honest and true whenever he recorded with us. So there was nothing that was pretense there. So if what you heard was what he was.
Yeah.
Very much so. Thank you guys for listening. We're Earth Station 1. I'm not going to do the whole closing thing. That's not appropriate tonight. And, you know where you could find us, or if you can, if this is your first time, because you're a friend of Darren. Thanks for listening and thanks for joining us. This has been a pleasure for us to do. I think we needed to do this. And I think, I hope we could help bring a little peace to everybody. And thank you for being here. Thank you, Mary. Thank you, Mike. Thanks, Josh. Thanks, Alan. Thank you, everybody. We will see you next time on Earth Station 1. Peace, and we will talk to you soon.